everybody. Welcome back to the Grow Yours podcast. Today, I am joined by Kyle Connor. He is a salesman turned dropshipper turned entrepreneur, and now is the founder of DIY Real Estate Group, a company that's revolutionizing how real estate is being done and marketed. So, without further ado, Kyle, welcome to the show.
Steffi, thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, very excited to get into that story that you talked about. I know we have a lot of similarities and overlap, so very excited to jump in.
Yeah, this is a really cool one. I feel like a lot of times I'm talking to people significantly older than me, so having somebody in the same age gap is going to be pretty refreshing. I actually did one the other day with somebody who does something in Amazon FBA, ironically, and he was
Nice.
he was like 29 to 32, something like that.
That's so funny. Yeah, definitely. That was a big wave for us. I know that we both dabbled into that. And actually I could just segue right into it as
Yeah,
well.
go ahead. Tell us how.
Again, since we're on the topic.
Yeah, tell us all about how you went from cybersecurity sales, right? And then you got into drop shipping and now where you are now. People want to hear the story. It's always inspiring. Let's hear it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'll start with cybersecurity. So my background out of college, I got my degree in sports management. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do after school. I decided to get my MBA and stayed at school for another grad year. And that ultimately landed me in my first job, which was selling cybersecurity. Very good job out of school, working with a hyper growth startup company and learned my foundation of sales and business management really with that business. And I was very fortunate after 4 years of working with that company, my company had gone public. And so I had about 30 grand worth of equity that I had gotten at the age of 25. I had no idea what to do with it. I come from a very blue collar family, and I was like researching, obviously, what do people do that want to get rich and build wealth? And it was real estate focused, a lot of like YouTube, podcast, university things that I was doing. And, so I was seeing this mixture of real estate. And then, of course, this was at the time of COVID, and I see drop shipping is becoming this major thing. So I always had this sort of like entrepreneurial spirit. And I was seeing a couple of things that were going on during 2020 where I was like, is it real estate? Is it going to be drop shipping? And so I decided to make I wouldn't say it was the wrong decision because we'll talk about how it ended up turning into a major positive, but I decided not to invest in real estate at the time. And I decided to invest into a done for you drop shipping business. And so I was in that as sort of my first entry into entrepreneurship, which was very fun, very exciting. It was a wild ride. And, we talked about some of the details, but long story short is that investment did not work out. My store got shut down. I was about 60 grand worth of debt that I was able to get released, thankfully, from Walmart and Amazon automations, et cetera, and their FBA stores. So they released those funds. I've quickly realized like, this is not for me. This is too intense. I'm done with the drop shipping game. However, the major takeaway was I was like, if I'm willing to spend this amount of money on a done for you style service, what other services could I take this into and ultimately create that can be done for you? And that's how I got into the game of real estate, which we'll talk more in depth. And but I know that you also had a very funny and interesting interesting dip into the drop shipping space as well.
Yeah, I did. And before I get into that, were you still working your job at the cybersecurity firm while making these Amazon attempts?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's funny. So I was working a full-time job and I was investing and dabbling into entrepreneurship. All right. And so after the drop shipping thing had failed, what I ultimately did is I went back to real estate. I was like, all right, this didn't work out, but I want to start getting deeper into the real estate space. So I started wholesaling real estate, which is basically finding off-market deals and flipping those, deals to a qualified buyer. And really it's a contract that you're owning. You don't own the real estate. You never put the money down. You just end up getting a signed purchase and sale agreement at an agreed upon price with the seller. And then you flip that to a buyer at a higher price, and that's wholesaling. So I built a really good skill with that. Actually working a full-time job, I was using virtual assistants and software to basically manage an online virtual wholesale business. And I've developed a really good skill with that. And then what I started realizing is that people would pay me to do that for them. And that's how I got into that business of DIY Real Estate Group is I took the same fundamentals and business model that drop shipping was giving to other entrepreneurs. And I was basically giving them a real estate business that they could purchase, invest in, and give them, real leads, real deals, and real systems and various items that a real estate business needs to survive. And again, all this was being done while I was working a full-time job, man. And it's definitely don't recommend doing it that way, but but it helped me in my entrepreneurial journey at a very early age, for sure.
Mhm. What was the moment where you decided, all right, job's done? Trying to get into this full time.
Whoa. Oh man. It took me 4 years. 4 years of
Wow,
yeah.
really?
Yeah. 4 years, dude. I was working, I started my companies in 2020, really is when I launched them. And I didn't go full time until most recently, July 2024. Cut the cord and
Whoa,
cut the cord and went full time into DIY and then my wholesale business. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and listen, for anyone watching that wants to start a business or might be really in the that kind of back and forth between, do I jump ship from my day job? Do I go all the way in on entrepreneurship? I think the timing is never going to be right, but it's also going to be different for everyone. I think for me specifically, what was that final push? I had built my businesses to a point where it was giving me consistent revenue that would replace my day job, my salary. So that was key, making sure that there was stability in my job so I could replace my income and then ultimately make up for the gap of things that I was losing, things like insurance, things like, just the comfort, right, of a salary and a W-2 that you get. You don't think about some of these things when you go into into entrepreneurship full time. So I need to really make sure that these things were in a good place and that I had myself financially sound and at least 6 months worth of runway is what I gave myself of savings to make sure that I could execute on it fully. So those were some of the metrics that I looked. I needed enough to replace my day-to-day salary, and I needed enough cushion to be in this for at least 6 months. It's really a year is key for me.
Yeah, I think that's super important what you just said, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that your revenue is not what you're making. And early on in business, like it's good like to have a month where you're like, hey, I collected 14K cash and I contracted 22K and you feel all good. But then when you really break it down, you're like, oh wait, I owe half of this to the government. And then I gotta pay for softwares and whoever else is on the team. And I didn't make any money.
No, exactly. And they're like, where's it for me? Where's left for me?
Yeah. And I guess what's left for you is the fact that you could build upon that, and that's the real
Yeah.
benefit there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I 100% think people don't realize. I have a friend right now. He's doing something on TikTok lives.
Yeah.
He's making some money doing some sort of drop shipping, like almost like live selling with sports memorabilia. And he's like, I'm going to quit my job. I made 10K last month. I'm like, well, you shouldn't do that.
Oh, definitely not. The money goes so fast, man. I mean, I even a year in, like I'll be officially a year into this full time in July. So I'm coming up on a year anniversary, and the highs are high, the lows are low, right? It's just kind of the nature of entrepreneurship. And so, anyone that's watching that's thinking about making that jump, there's no vanity in leaving your day W-2. There's no vanity in leaving and then having to go back either, right? So like at the end of the day, it's really important with making sure that you don't jump too soon and that you really give yourself the understanding that your first business partner should be your W-2, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even when I was first starting out in the working world, I was always like, having a job is stupid. And I was like, I want to do it all on my own. But then after a couple of failures of trying to do it on my own, I was like, all right, maybe I'll stick this out for a little bit.
No, dude, and I've really funny you mentioned that because I've really changed my tone on, I used to be like anything but corporate, anything but, corporate Kyle. I'll never want to go back to corporate Kyle. And there's still a part of me that doesn't, but I also have learned, I should say there's always a part of me that doesn't, but I also have a new respect and humbling experience being in entrepreneurship and running two businesses full time now. It's like, that sometimes there's days where you don't want to wake up and be an entrepreneur, but too damn bad, right? You made that decision, right? There's many days I'll say to my wife where I'm like, I just don't want to be. I'll say the words literally, I don't want to be an entrepreneur today, but I have to literally, but I have no choice, and I just keep going and keep fighting the good fight, man. And that's what you sign up for, and I don't think people quite understand that how much of a commitment it truly is.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with one of my friends similar the other day, and we were talking about investing in coaching and courses and like all that other stuff. And he's like, he's in a corporate job. He likes his job, but he's an accountant. He's at one of the big four, and he just transferred to like M&A. And he was like, okay, so you're talking about all this coaching courses and like ROI. He's like, what about the ROI on your college degree? Like if I make $5 million in my career and I get all that education from college, like and I'm happy, it's worth it. And I was like, I don't disagree with you. I was like, whatever you're happy doing is the move. I'm not saying that the path I chose is right of entrepreneurship or that the path you chose is right. I think it varies person to person, and you got to lose the mentality of like, I don't want a boss. I want to have all my time, because when you're your own boss, there's no sick days. There's no like, I'm calling out today, mental health day. That stuff doesn't exist.
No, and you will literally will have, to your point, there's none of that. And then there's also, your boss becomes your clients, your boss becomes your teammates, your boss becomes the people that you need to deliver for every single day. And no matter how you build your business, there's always going to be somebody you have to adhere to, whether that's an internal team member or an external client. And trust me, those headaches are 10 times harder sometimes than having to deal with a boss that you get to say goodbye to at the end of the day and over the weekend. That's some of the comfort that you do get, but at the end of the day, right, I think what I want to make sure and make abundantly clear for anyone watching that's still thinking about jumping into entrepreneurship and building a business, we don't want to scare you guys. We don't want to deter you at all. It's more so making sure that you decide your future. Don't let the external pressures of family, friends, social media, like that time. Trust me, when I had to wait 4 years, I was not very patient. I would have left my W-2 the year I started my company if I could have. But unfortunately, life didn't pan out that way. And thankfully, I didn't jump too soon, or else I probably would have had the businesses go under. And so, I encourage everyone to be extremely patient, for sure. But we'll digress on that topic for sure, because I know we got a lot more to get into. But I definitely, I'm hopeful that no one jumps their ship too soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got actually a lot of time today. You're the last call of the night, so if we go over, we go over. All good.
Perfect.
So let's talk a little bit about how you managed your time when you were working your job and starting the business, because
Yeah.
a big chunk of your day, it has to be committed to your job, or else you won't have a job anymore. So how were you able to divvy up the time in order to properly operate your business on the side?
Good questions. So, number one, I was very intentional with the role that I chose, and it gave me a lot of flexibility. Meaning, when I started my companies, I was working. Again, this was during COVID, right? So that changed everything, and we were able to go remote, fully because of COVID. So just that ability to now work in an out of office now gave me a lot of freedom to do what I wanted at the comfort of my desk, right? So that opened the door in a big way. Now I was also doing a sales role, right? When I wasn't doing demos, when I wasn't managing my pipeline, I really could get away with doing my job, like showing and putting a good effort, hitting my numbers, doing my quota, whatever I needed to do. But that's not the majority. You can do that maybe 3 to 4 hours of your day, right? So I had a role that helped me, and also location wise of where I needed to conduct that role being completely virtual. That just made it so much easier for me to start doing things that I probably wasn't supposed to working my full time job, right? So that flexibility in the role that I had, now this is different for everyone, right? Because some people don't have that luxury. Some people have to be an engineer, or some people have to work in the field, right? Where they're not by a computer. So you guys and girls need to understand how to become a master of your schedule. That was the number one thing I worked on, is I wasn't going to not start my companies. I wasn't going to not start the vision. I wasn't going to let anything as far as my day job get in the way of me doing it. I just had to navigate how to be smart with my schedule. So that was, figuring out when were the right and appropriate times to get in my calls during the day. I'm talking lunch breaks, I'm talking evenings, I'm talking mornings. Figuring out when my team could meet, right? My team, I run a virtual team of 50 VAs now. At the time of working my W-2, I was managing a team of 30, right? Which is nuts. So I got people asking me people that are relying on me to show up. So I had to make sure that I scheduled my meetings accordingly and really became a master of my calendar, which I always wish I could be a good master of my calendar. But that's something I had to really, really work on in the beginning stages, is just being intentional with my time. And then the number two thing I'll say, aside from just being very intentional with your time and going into your day with a plan, number two is really starting to be comfortable saying no. And I'm not just saying no to your mother or your friend, your brother, whatever. I'm talking friends that you enjoy spending time with, people that you really enjoy being a part of your life. unfortunately, those sacrifices have to start being made. You just can't do it all in one day. You can't give back to everyone. You can't run your businesses, and you can't give back to your W-2. So I had to make a lot of sacrifices of who I was giving my time to, who I was saying yes to. And that's something I see so many new entrepreneurs, including myself, really struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
I would love your take on that. I don't know if you get pulled in a million different directions and it's not even malicious, it's just a friend or somebody and all of a sudden you realize you're sidetracked. It can be really hurtful to your schedule.
Oh yeah. I have one friend. He's like, I haven't seen you in months, and he came over the other day because one of our other friends was visiting from Florida. So he wanted to come. I just moved to a new place. He wanted to see it. Haven't seen him in a while. All that. And one of my friends, he said, he was like, "Isn't it crazy you haven't seen both of us in the same amount of time, and one lives right here and the other one lives in Florida?" I was like, "Dude, I'm grinding. I have no time, and it has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with how I feel towards you. It's like." Still like you, still my friend. It's just I'm busy, and it's just a matter of fact. There's no other way, if ands or buts around it. If I want to make what I got going on work, I have to sacrifice it, and it sucks. I skipped a bachelor party recently that I was supposed to go on. I paid for the Airbnb, and then still didn't even go. And I said keep my piece of the Airbnb as a gift because even what I paid for it isn't worth the meetings that I was taking that day.
Of course. And then your friends, then you're an asshole, right? Because then you're on the hook for that. I almost had to be in that situation many, many times. And again, that's sacrifice. Like people, that's a very small example of so many of those, like, they just pop up, right? They just pop up. And when you're so focused on driving your business forward, or not just focused, or when you're required, because that's the thing is you can take some time off or you can try to break away, but then you get sucked back in. And it's like, well, now I have to sacrifice time with my wife, time with my dogs, time with this friend, right? And that's just how the world works when you sign up for these things, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I sometimes I leave my dog back at my family's house just because I'm like this week I'm not walking you. Like there's no chance.
It's smart, man. You gotta, and that's just comes down to understanding your calendar, right? How was I able to do it? A lot of people don't know, right? And even just for a long time, people were like, how the heck are you doing all this, dude? And I didn't know either, but I just became very good about how to work my calendar, and saying no is my best recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Saying no is huge for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some lessons you learned in your corporate job that you apply to entrepreneurship, because a lot of sales is like, because you're working for commission, you are kind of building your own income. So
Correct.
what would you say was the number one takeaway from sales that transitioned into the nitty gritty of entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So I'm so thankful I started off as a sales rep. Some people, I heard from a gentleman who was on the podcast the other day. He's a $30 million producer, and he said to get to your first $1 million, it's just sales and marketing. You need to be good at both, or find someone in your business that's good at both. I'm happy that I was really good in sales, and I had that experience going in because no matter what, I was creating a brand new idea. I was launching a brand new business idea that had not been done before. And I wasn't sure really how the market was going to react to it. I knew there was demand for lead gen. I knew there was demand for new leads and fresh business. But as far as all of what we were offering and sort of our go-to-market, it was completely new and innovative. And so I just knew, though, that like I had the experience in my corporate world getting people to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? The software and cybersecurity space is a big business, right? And I was getting these people to spend hundreds and tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. I was like, okay, I can convince people to do something if there's enough value, right? If there's enough value and I can show that value, I've developed this skill, which is awesome. So it made the client acquisition part of it very, very, is a much easier path for me. But getting more clients and the demand for more clients, like the marketing side of it, has been the biggest adjustment and shift for me. And so I would say like the sales execution as well, right? When I got Sandler trainings and I got trainings on disc profile, and really like taking the knowledge that I got from the corporate world and the structure for sales, just adopting that into my business was huge. And then also from the sales management side of it, we're talking things like doing quarterly business reviews, right? The importance of doing things like SWOT analysis, right? With your teammates and your people underneath you. And so, these things help any business thrive, right? Taking some of these corporate structured pieces to understand who you are as a worker, understand how your coworkers operate with you so you can work more efficiently. You learn all these things in a corporate setting. I just got to now apply that to my own business, which was really cool. So those lessons made that really easy. But then the lessons learned of business management, marketing, and those things didn't come as easy.
I have actually the exact opposite problem because
Really?
I started in recruiting, so that's kind of sales,
Yep.
but it wasn't intense. And well, I was young. I was just out of college, and I didn't see the value in my commission because it really wasn't that great, and I didn't know how to negotiate for better commission.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't go as hard as I should have. Definitely not. And so, but being a marketer, I'm really good at getting people to come and talk to me. I get the initial call very easily, and then when it comes to the sales side, is where I struggle a little bit.
Yep.
But that's something I'm learning through coaching and all different things like that. But there was one thing you said. You said you were able to convince people to give you thousands of dollars. Is selling really convincing people, or just explaining to them the benefits of your solution?
More the latter. You're spot on. Yeah, the more the latter of the benefits, and that's even something I've had to develop more as a sales rep, right? Because sales is always changing. The way people buy is always changing. That's what's crazy. Like I've had to really adapt to the way people buy in 2025 versus how people bought back when I started businesses in 2020. And so, you're spot on though. It's really like it's a very value driven sales engagement. We live, unfortunately, in a trust recession right now. So everyone's bullshit blinders are up, right? So and people really don't like. No one ever liked pushy sales reps, but even now, so more and more people, we just like it. You're not getting the one call close like we used to anymore. It's not.
Oh,
happening.
no way.
It's not happening. Yeah. So like you're spot on, man. It has to be a value driven sales approach that they just see it's like so much to the point where it's like this is a no brainer. All the value.
100%, I agree. Well, from my lesser standard, but
hey, but you've got a great dude. Marketing is such a game, man.
Yeah,
Marketing
it's fun though.
Yeah,
I
when
think
you get it, when you can get it, it's. I'm starting to have a lot of fun with it now, but it wasn't that way 2 years ago.
Yeah, once you get into the nitty gritty of understanding KPIs and data, it's like, all right, this is a video game now. How do I multiply?
Oh my God, yeah, the KPIs. That's huge. That's huge.
All right, so we talked a lot about tools and the recipe for success. Now let's talk a little bit about failure.
Yep.
And so well, maybe failure is the wrong word because you wouldn't necessarily call your dropshipping venture a failure. You would call it more of a lesson. Absolutely. But how would you tell people to deal with that lesson and that failure when it feels so crushing, so demoralizing? So tell us a little bit about how you felt in that moment and then how you persevered through.
Yeah. If I had a mentor at the beginning stage, I had to pay for it and find them. But if that mentor had told me this, I wish, I would have probably avoided a lot of mental stress. And which is as simple as this. Get very comfortable losing or get very comfortable with just being every day, just a constant test of your stress and a test of your patience. Because you are constantly losing, either constantly losing at a really great capacity or you're constantly losing at a small capacity. I should say they're just all lessons that you're learning, big and small, every single day. And the biggest thing that I had to adjust to, I just want to make sure specifics or just adjusting more towards like losing as an entrepreneur.
I don't know, whatever you think would be more valuable.
Okay,
I trust you.
I like it. So
yeah.
I think overall, like just the idea that your brain is a muscle, right? And I've had to figure this out just by losing so much and just putting my, solving one problem after one problem and just being comfortable with, hey, you can do this and you can solve problems I think that's what a lot of CEOs are. They're just expert problem solvers, right? And that comes with a lot of losing to get there. And so, for me, I just had to get very comfortable with this part of it. I never, I didn't think it was going to be as challenging, the volume of losses that you receive. But going back to what that lesson of drop shipping taught me, it was a very, very early stage in my own. This was before like I don't even think I made 100K yet in one of my businesses when I dove into drop shipping. Like I was very new and I was like really excited at getting in and becoming an entrepreneur. But that first lesson with drop shipping was like, wow, I've invested a lot of money. I did not get a return on that investment of money, but I saw what could be as far as, again, what somebody else did and did as this, because the people that sold me that were making 7, 8 figures. Like they were crushing it. And so I was like, damn, like there's something to this. And I didn't even care about the money lost. I was more like just blown away at what my mind was open to now. Right. So so I think that's something that we have to adjust to, is like not looking at money lost and being frustrated, but looking at the money's already been spent, the work's already been put in. There's got to be something I can gain from this. Like I gotta take this scenario, this situation, and really gain something from it. And that's exactly what I did. And I was very happy I did, because again, DIY real estate was born off of a failed dropshipping adventure. So, thank you, FBA and dropshipping, for getting me to this point. But that's just again, what's going to happen, man, is that you're going to hit a crossroads, right? You're going to either go left or right. You're going to continue down entrepreneurship, or you're going to quit too early. In my opinion, people are just always quitting too early, and you'll probably have a lot of regrets. And you probably won't be I wouldn't say you're a loser. I'm not going to go out and say that at all, because I think it's good and important for people to say goodbye when they know it's not a good fit for them. But I also don't want people to give up too fast. And you just have to be comfortable with losing from the very beginning. And if you can be comfortable with that, you will find success. It's without a doubt, you will find success.
Sound very Hormozy right now.
I feel very Hormozy at the moment. But it's true, man. It's true. Like I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I can tell you're very smart, but I can also tell you're street smart and you're good with people, right? And there's certain things that you can get and win as an entrepreneur without having to be the smartest person. You're just going to have to get comfortable with losing. And if you do that, you're going to be successful someday. It's without a doubt going to happen.
Yeah, it is a matter of fact. I believe it. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm having these conversations anyway, because not only do you have to be comfortable with losing and aware of all the tribulations ahead, you also have to be okay with the fact that you're not the smartest person in the room. One coach that I work with, he says, you could be right or you could be rich. And it's up to you to pick.
I love that. Because that's really what it comes down to now, man. I'm trying to seek as many rooms that I can get into, as many events as I possibly can, to be around smarter, more successful people. And that can be tough when your ego is hit, when you're first starting out and you're starting from square one. Like when I first started, dude, this is no lie, I wanted to learn real estate so badly. My brother and I were going to free networking events, meetups around the Boston area. I wish I had the exact number for you in our first year, but we, no lie, signed up for 2 free events every single week, just to get in front of people, just to network, just to figure out what these people were doing. And that's when we didn't have a budget for mastermind groups. We didn't have any money for mastermind programs. You're in any major metro area, you're going to find mostly free meetups and REOs to go to, right? Every industry probably has them. So you just got to be really resourceful in those beginning stages and get in those rooms with more people that are at a lot higher level than you are, and you will be better for it.
Okay, we talked a lot about the process of getting into the business. So let's talk about some business processes and some things that you do that I find particularly interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you still focus a lot on cold calling and SMS for your real estate lead generation. Is this correct?
Yes, I do SMS marketing for my own real estate business and my company DIY does a done-for-you cold call marketing system for real estate professionals.
All right, so let's talk about cold calling a little bit because I feel like this is something that's on the downtrend.
Yeah.
Yeah, outside of the corporate world, most people are not looking to cold call. They're looking to
Yep.
either run paid ads, organic traffic, podcasts, YouTube. So let's talk a little bit about how and why you still use that strategy for your clients.
Absolutely. So let me preface by saying I do inbound marketing and outbound marketing in both my businesses. I spend money on paid ads. I spend money on pay per lead. I want everyone to know abundantly that this is, I'm coming from a perspective where I spend money on both marketing channels. I think it's important for any successful business to have that first and foremost. But here's why I love cold calling. I think it's a tried and true marketing method that, whether it's people or AI doing it, it's one of the best, if not arguably the best way of converting a lead at the lowest and most cost effective, at the most cost effective way of converting a lead, in my opinion. For real estate, it's trying to get in touch with as many sellers in your market as you possibly can. And there's no better scalable way and cost effective way to do that than through cold calling and SMS. Right. For me, I want to make sure that I talk to as many people to see if they want to sell or no. And if they're not going to sell now, they could be selling sometime down the road. And so I want to gauge them. I want to get them in my pipeline as fast as possible. That's my approach and my mindset when it comes to my marketing for wholesaling or my real estate business. Because I don't want to wait for somebody to fill out a form. I don't want to be at the mercy sometimes of the type of asset classes and people that fill out the form, right? I want to build my marketing. I want to build the exact property type I'm going after. I really want to be intentional with my marketing list. And you can definitely do that with paid ads. You can definitely tweak and your ads and all that other stuff as far as the creatives go. I'm not saying you can't target the ideal person. I've found it to be much easier and easy to scale and find a larger pool of leads by doing that through cold calling and other or outbound sales marketing, right? And so that's number one. Is I like to get in touch with as many people in my target market as possible. That's for the game of real estate, but that can go for any business, right? Just going into your target market and just hitting it with the phones is there's no better way to speaking with people in your ideal space. Now, here's why I do it from maybe a cost perspective. Now, I don't know what it is for other industries. I'm again just speaking to the real estate space. Right now, the average cost per deal for like your PPC, pay-per-click marketing, is going to be somewhere between $6,000 to $8,000 per deal. Now, your, I would say, average deal size is going to be somewhere maybe around the 15 to 25, maybe even 30K. But I would say just to be conservative, 15 to 20K is your average deal size. Now, if you go over to cold calling or SMS marketing, my numbers are a little bit different. I'm looking at an average deal spend of about 3,500 to 3K, but my average deal size is about 12K, right? So why did I share these two examples? The reason I share these two examples is one is a quality over quantity and one's a quantity over quality. As a new investor, as a new business owner, many people don't have the skills, knowledge, or budget to get into the paid ad game. A lot of them think they do. They do. This is for real estate, by the way. I'm only speaking to real estate. Is they don't quite understand how saturated and how competitive that space is, and their budgets don't align appropriately to it. So that's where a lot of people fumble or fail in the beginning stages because they can't keep up with the demand and spend that is required to be successful with cold or paper lead or PPC. Right. So that's where I'm very big on if you're a new investor, if you're a new professional, if you're someone that's just getting into the space, there's no better and more cost effective way than implementing cold calling into the mix because you can close deals. I see people closing deals every single week at a much lower cost per lead and a much lower cost per deal than that of their numbers on PPC and PPL. So I went into the weeds a little bit with you on there on the real estate side, but I think those details are important because you may even experience, and I would ask you, do you see that sometimes being more expensive when you're spending in maybe a different channel other than real estate, or like if you're spending to get new clients for paid ads, do you see that being a lot higher cost per acquisition?
That the cost per acquisition definitely varies industry to industry.
Yeah.
But as a marketer, everything I do is ROAS driven, right? So the first thing that popped in my head when you gave those two examples was you're spending 6,000 on PPC,
Yep.
but then the deal average size is 15 to 20,000, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's anywhere from like a 2 to 3 ROAS you see in there.
Yeah.
But then when you said SMS and cold call, you were saying anywhere between three and 3,500, right?
Yep.
And then the average deal size is about the same. So the
That's
ROAS,
yeah. Probably would say like closer to 10 to 12K is what I'm seeing.
okay, but either way, the ROAS is higher on the cold call, the
Right.
SMS, which I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, they probably don't even know what ROAS is. It's return on ad spend,
Yep.
and they don't realize that that's a big reason why you choose one avenue for the beginning, because you're getting more on your money quicker. But when you're doing PPC and you're doing bigger deals, it probably makes sense to go there because then the margins are much larger. So it's okay if the ROAS is a little bit lower.
Definitely. If you're somebody that can go right into like a paper lead or paper PPC, because paper lead is starting to become just as competitive and saturated as PPC is. And so that cost per deals, I'm using both of them as an example because they're just really going up in our industry. They used to be the hottest thing in 2023, 2024, and it was just way different cost per deal. And so, yeah, now what I'm seeing is like people are literally, some of the biggest influencers are just cutting bait entirely on their PPC budget. And so everyone was telling cold calling's dead and don't go to cold call and don't do this because it's a wasted marketing avenue, yada, yada, yada. And then everyone went to PPC, and now it's costing people an arm and a leg, and they're just shutting off that marketing channel because it just doesn't make financial sense. They can't keep up with the return on ad spend. It's nuts. So it just varies, right? It varies depending on industry. But I will say for anyone watching this, do not neglect cold calling. It's too, as far as a cost per acquisition, cost per lead, and the value it gives back to your business, the ROI is just, it's too good. It's too good to avoid. It's just most people are scared to get on the phones. And if you are scared to get on the phones, just hire someone like myself that can do it for you. Shameless plug.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's what I'm hoping people hear. I hope they get on here, they hear what you got going on, and they find a solution for themselves. What about cold email? You dabble in cold email at all?
I do some cold email. Yeah, I do a little cold email for this bit for DIY actually, and we see good. We go in with a very open mind, not expecting a high ROI from it, but I've definitely acquired. I would say this year alone, I've acquired 3 to 4 clients just through email.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot through email. That's how I found you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. That's how you found me.
Yeah, I do a lot through cold email, and also because it's super cost effective. Like
Correct.
now, especially now with platforms like, you ever heard of Instantly?
No.
Instantly, it's like $97 a month. You create 18 inboxes with Google. They're like $7.25 a pop, and you're able to send every single day 650 emails
Instantly.
Yeah, there you go. That'll boost you up. You'll feel good when you figure out how to use that platform. But yeah, so I'm able to send out anywhere from 350 to 650 emails because you have a certain amount of emails per inbox, and you just fire them off. And you're gonna get a lot of no's. You're gonna get a lot of disrespectful responses because people hate getting stuff in their inbox that's not important to them.
Yep.
But it really works, and it's also very cost effective.
Oh, dude, and here's the thing, right? No one likes to get, I'll hold my language, but I'll say like no one likes to get mother effed over, email, cold call, text. Like no one loves that part of cold outreach. Let's call it. That's why I'm so big of like, hey, hire a $3 to $4 an hour virtual assistant that our team provides. Get them to do this for you and focus your time and energy on a much more important part of your business. Right. And if you can't afford it, just do it yourself, of course. But that's where most business owners are like, most people can afford as a business owner $300 to $400 for a person to replace that role. The return on investment of time alone is just huge. Right. So these are things that we try to teach people, is like getting them to think a little bit different, like stop doing this to your own and like use a tool like Instantly and then plug in a virtual assistant who's trained and knows how to use it while you go and close clients, right? And do things that are more productive with your time.
I also met somebody who's working on an AI that directly integrates with Instantly that'll connect to your calendar and answer your emails and
There
look at
you
your
go.
calendar and offer times to potential leads. It's super interesting stuff.
Yeah, there you go. AI, it's crazy, man. The amount of things that people can do now with tech and a low cost virtual assistant, you can literally automate your entire business. It's insane.
You do a lot with AI?
I do, man. I do a lot with AI. So here's my take really quick on AI. I have
Sure.
not, yeah, so very much so. Obviously, it's being talked about like crazy. We use it in a lot of the tools that we use, things like our CRM, so Go High Level. We use it in a lot of different tools we're marketing, like Captions app. Obviously,
Captions. I love captions.
love
Big
Captions,
captions fan.
Fathom, Note Takers, all the Note Taker apps. Chat GPT and OpenAI is the core foundation. But I will tell you, man, I get into team meetings, and there'll be a problem that I'll address in the room, and all of a sudden my VAs, either on my tech operations VA, my systems or data person, will all of a sudden come back in our next team meeting and be like, "Hey, man, I integrated OpenAI with this new tool, and now it's doing this, and it's completely automated this process. We didn't have to hire another person. Look how great this is." It's like list after list that I get of my teammates using AI to help solve a problem where now we don't have to spend money on a tool anymore, or we don't have to hire a person to go and do that for us, which as a business owner is the most amazing feeling, right? To be able to have your problem solved for you, but also have it solved with a tool that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So that's where we're finding the most value right now is like before we hire somebody new or before we add more complexity to the business, we figure out how we can problem solve with the power of AI and a trained virtual assistant. And notice how like I'm not saying one or the other, right? A lot of people think like AI, yes, it's going to replace a lot of people. It's going to replace a lot of roles. But I also think it's going to enable a lot of people and enable a lot of roles. And it just won't be as much overhead and complexity that you're going to have. You're going to have people, instead of running your business on a team of 50, you have your business running on a team of 20, but doing the same numbers and same efficiency, right? That's all it is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. At first, I was definitely one of those people that was like, I would make fun of my friends that have, I don't want to, I don't want to sound like I'm degrading them, but like jobs that I think could, in my opinion, could be
Right.
easily replaced. I may be wrong, but I would say that to them and they'd be like, no way, no way. And then like, as I get older and learn more about markets and different roles and positions, I'm like, yeah, no way. It's not going to happen that quickly.
Yeah, and I think everyone's at risk. Everyone's definitely at risk, and we all should be looking over our shoulder. But I think it's more of like the ones who adapt and use it as a way to help each other, like help yourself, are the ones that are not going to have their jobs replaced. The ones that are like, "What the fuck is AI? I don't even know about AI. AI's not taking our jobs." Friggin' South Park episode, right? Like literally, they're probably gonna. If they haven't done it already, they will have an AI episode. But it's one of these things where if you're turning a blind eye to it, that's the most irresponsible thing you can do. That's for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And right now, the drop shipping of Instagram ads and everything right now is AI arbitrage. That's the new
Yeah.
agency.
That's
So it's literally taking a already built AI system, white labeling it as your own, calling a solar company and saying like, "Hey, I could automate this process for you and save X per year, and all you gotta do is pay me this retainer." It's the new
dude.
AI gold rush.
I was just having this conversation with my content guy this morning. We were cracking up about it. I was like, man, everyone's an AI consultant all of a sudden, like out of nowhere. And I get it. You got to go to the new shiny object, and I certainly will be selling AI bots and tools that we have within our business, but it's within our ecosystem, and it's to help add more value to our core products and people. That's what I'm using AI for. I'm not using it necessarily to replace. I'm using it to reduce. I'm using it to make us more efficient, and I'm using it to add more value to our services and our delivery of our services for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we use it.
That actually segues into something else I want to talk about, and that's creating value beyond your core service offering. So I know you really pride yourself on building a community within your clients as much as, just helping them to evolve and adapt in the real estate world. So tell me a little bit more about that, how you really enforce that community element.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I think someone just turned on. Can you hear that music by any chance?
A little bit, but hopefully I'll be able to edit it out.
Someone's playing like some sort of like Spanish music. All good. We'll let it go.
Yeah, it's all right.
If it becomes too distracting, you let me know.
I will.
So I'm sorry. Repeat the question one more time.
So I'm just curious how beyond your core offering, you're able to enforce that. Well, I don't want to say enforce, but enhance your clients' experience with the community building element.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that we've added over the years, right? We started with lead generation as our core, right? And from there, we branched off to realizing we could add an element of consulting, right? We were taking our skills, taking our expertise, and that's where we're like, okay, there's an education piece to this that we can ultimately sell. So we started selling off the education piece with a mentorship and sort of an inner circle program. And then we started to realize that there's a lot of tech and data and things that we're doing behind the scenes that delivers our service, but we don't speak enough about it and we don't highlight the importance of it from an operational value perspective, right? We were focusing so much over the years on getting new deals, getting more revenue, closing new opportunities, which is obviously the most important thing, right? If people pay you for lead gen and deals, you need to deliver on getting them more deals and leads so that they can keep the lights on. That's always going to be the core service. However, what we also started to realize is selling the value of the operational side of the service, the people, the tools that we're putting together, the way that they're integrating and communicating. Like I came in with a very techie background working in software sales, but I realized that the vast majority of people do not understand tech. They don't understand how to manage a dialer system. They don't understand even how a CRM operates. Too. I can't tell you how many people that work out of Google Sheets that are 7-8 figure business owners, right? That like work out of Google Sheets all the time.
I work with some of them for sure.
And you know them, right? It's an old school way of thinking, but it's like, wow, I realized very quickly that I could be selling the value of like how good we are at taking tech, managing software, integrating that tech and infrastructure, making it all communicate, and then selling that as sort of like a standalone type of service. So we started selling CRMs being built, and we started making money now on CRMs. And then we started getting into the data piece, which is like, wow, in order for us to deliver our calls and to source leads, we need to be calling on lists and data. And so then we started to, we're skip tracing, which is, if you're not familiar, for anyone watching, skip tracing is when you take a record, a homeowner, let's say for sake of example, and then you find the contact information for that person. So that's a phone number, an email, right? That's what skip tracing is. And there's companies that are skip tracing companies that make millions and millions of dollars every year. Well, we decided to, instead of partnering, we were partnering with so many data providers doing like, 250,000 records a month, which if you do in the cost of most skip trace providers, like we're spending like $25,000 to $30,000 a month with some providers on skip tracing alone. So that was all the data and all the money we were giving away. We're like, we need to capture this. We need to do this. So we innovated and we started to create our own skip tracing service, and we started to create our own list building service. This is something we launched literally this year. And so, dude, this is just, I go down the list of like, we started with one thing, and then you start to uncover like there's so much value that you just start to hear from the clients that you didn't even expect was a valuable piece of the service. And you're like, oh, I need to be marketing this better, or I need to be building a standalone service or product for this now. And that's what's been a really cool thing for us to see over the years, is just the development of those services and products to deliver that value, right?
So do you see that more impactful in gaining new clients, upgrading the offer, or do you see it more impactful to the LTV of the clients that you already have?
Way more on the LTV. Yeah, with the clients that we already have. I mean, I love the fact that we can now offer, bring on new clients through those avenues. But I find it better when we can retain a client that we otherwise might have maybe not been subscribed to us again for XYZ reason. And now they're still with us for another couple months or even a year, right? I've had clients that have swapped services now that have just been with that because it was a better fit. So absolutely the LTV.
Lifetime value, by the way, for people.
Lifetime value of your client. Yeah, which, dude, is massive, especially right now. It's so hard to acquire new clients. So hard to get people to spend money right now. And I talked about that trust recession, right? People are just got their bullshit blinders left and right. So to acquire a new client is really hard. So make sure you're retaining the ones you already have.
Yeah, I think Hormozy said treat your clients like prospects and your prospects like your mom or something like that.
I love that, dude. Yeah, I'm thinking about a million and one examples right now of of just creative solutions we brought to the table when we thought we were just losing steam, right, with a client, and we're just like, let's figure out their real challenges and problems. We uncovered it. Oh, we actually can do this. We weren't selling this as a service or product before, but now we can, and now we can keep them, and that's really really fun when you can figure that out.
Yeah, part of the fun of all of this is just figuring things out.
That's just what it is.
Yeah, if you're the type of person who just, I don't know, did you play video games growing up?
I did. Oh yeah, definitely. Of
What
course.
games?
Oh, all the big ones: Halo, Call of Duty, Super Smash when there was the GameCube days. I mean,
So
Mario Party, everything.
tons of critical thinking,
Right.
and I think that young enjoyment of like video games, or I don't know, if you're a puzzle person or anybody who's critically thinking all the time, the entrepreneurship thing is just so much more appealing.
Oh, dude, not only that, but also like the way that I look at competition, I look at it like a video game too.
Oh yeah,
I'm just like, well, this guy just got to a higher level than me. He just figured it out faster than me. I'm gonna get to that level. Don't worry. Like I will achieve that next level and whatever that power up is. Right. I say that to myself all the time, man, because it keeps me sane.
yeah. Even monotonous tasks, daily tasks. It's
Yeah.
like when you played these games and you needed to grind for camos, or Pokemon comes to mind when you got to get levels up and stuff like that. You were doing the same task over and over and
Yep.
over again, but you knew there was going to be some end goal that was going to be super fulfilling. It's kind of the same thing.
Absolutely. No, I mean everything, it's that stuff between sports, video games. Like I often think about what shaped me or what has helped me weather the storm as long as I have. Like what mentally like did I do as a child or during my whatever adolescent years that like allows me to stay committed. Because not everyone would do it. Definitely not. So yeah, that video games is a good overlap for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, that's just one of the things. I think sports matters too. I think a lot of successful athletes can transition into entrepreneurship pretty easily
Well, I think it's
because,
just it teaches you lessons of learning.
yeah,
Going back to what talked about, man. It's you have to figure out how to lose really quick. And when you do that with sports and video games, you can mentally take that.
for sure. I lost 8 basketball championships growing up. 8.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
My
dude!
mom used to make fun of me. She'd be like, "You're gonna play the whole season just to lose that last game again."
Oh my god! See, that's crazy. See, we won the first one, and not to rub salt on the wound, but this
I'm over it. Don't worry.
yeah, we literally won our first one in school history. But I think about very, very often what that journey to get to our senior years, high school, literally our senior year, we won our high school championship. And it was the
What
first one,
sport?
basketball.
Oh, I play basketball too.
It
Yeah.
was basketball, dude. Yeah, in the state of Connecticut. And so we just again there was a lot riding on that, and the stool never won the championship, and we finally put it to fruition, dude. But I think about like I don't realize what that journey to get there and how that shaped me as a man, as a business owner, and I will never take it for granted because it just really helped me understand like losing and grit for sure.
100% agree. So I guess that brings us to the end, and I want you to give one more piece of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur out there, or somebody who is already in the weeds. What would be the number one thing to focus on internally?
Oh, you killed me at the end with internally. One thing
Yeah,
that
no, as a person more than in the business.
yeah, no. Here's what I'll say. I have grown more as a son, as a husband to my wife. I've grown more as a friend and brother, like just as a human being, man. Like I have grown so much through necessity since starting my businesses. And sometimes you get really upset at competitive, uh, just things that stick into your world as far as competition. You get beat up by social media. you have to be your own, you have to be your biggest fan, right? Every single day you have to be your biggest fan. So it's really important that you understand that all of that external factors, how everybody else is doing, how everyone else's situation is means nothing to your situation. You need to literally wake up every single day and not put pressure on yourself of where you need to be or why you're not there yet or why you haven't made it to that point. Just understand if you do the work and you keep your head down and you be humble. And there's so many little, like this isn't just one. I'm giving a lot of lessons, so I'm sorry. I'll be very thorough, but I'm really trying to make sure that this is abundantly clear to whoever's listening, because we've talked a lot about this on today's show, which is losing and mental toughness and mental fortitude and what it takes to get to a certain level, right? That can't be done if you're looking at someone else's plate, right? That can't be done if you're second guessing yourself because other people are where you want to be and you're not there yet. You really just need to make sure that personally and internally that you control the things that you can control every single day. Be a master of your time, and say no to as many times as you possibly can. And I promise you guys that you will reach your end goal. You will reach it with a clear and level head, and you will do so coming out of it a much stronger person. Bringing this full circle is that you will be. It just will blow you away, the individual that you will become once you've gone into real estate. Sorry, once you've gone into real estate's a good avenue.
Quick pitch.
Yeah, right. Subtle pitch. No, once you've gone into entrepreneurship, right, you will be amazed at the type of person you can get to, and that constant growth becomes addicting. I'm telling you, it becomes addicting. I'm not talking about the constant wins become addicting. I'm talking about the constant growth that you will experience as an entrepreneur becomes addicting, and that will become more of what you focus on every single day and less about the revenue goals. I promise you that.
Well said. And last thing, go ahead, give yourself a nice little shameless plug. Where can everybody find you?
I put in some small ones, so in case anyone picked up, I have some real. No, I really, Giuseppe, appreciate your time, man. So for anyone that wants to connect with us, if you're in the real estate space, or even if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner who's just getting your business off the ground, we provide, again, done-for-you services for real estate professionals and new entrepreneurs and small business owners that can help in the way of marketing, systems, data, and lead generation. We'd love to partner with you guys. If you'd like to follow me, I'm very active on social media at the Kyle Connor on Instagram and the Kyle Connor on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And I'm always posting new stuff there and free resources for anyone that wants to join.
All right, awesome. All right, everybody, this has been the Grow Yours podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe, and we'll see you next time.